My son is characterized as being very strong, lively, and thanks to God, is very healthy. But yesterday, at about 2 p.m., he began to feel bad. He lost his appetite, he had a loss of interest, a loss of strength, vigor, liveliness, and he began to lose all the motivation that generally characterizes him, to the point that it was 10 p.m. and it was impossible with him. He did not even want to walk. We then took him to bed, laid him down, we laid hands on him, but I had a feeling within me, wow, he may not survive until next morning. His eyes began to turn black. His breathing became very faint. Many times I had to come over and check if he was breathing or not. The situation grew worse here in England due to the hospitals. They are over capacity and emergency medical services are very slow. If you call an ambulance, it will arrive 2 or 3 days later, since the whole medical system has collapsed. So we felt that there was no way to get help from human beings or by human means, but we trusted in God's promises, and I began to remember everything that the Lord has promised me about my son. I began to pray for my son. And he had a dream last night. He told us about it this morning, and I want to describe the more important parts. He says that when the dream first started, he says that it was like a movie theater, and there were people there who had a list of children's names. That list was for the children that they wanted to take their life away. Then someone comes with the list and asks for his name. He answered and said, Juan. Then this person said that he was on that list and that he was next in line to be killed. In that moment, he begins to pray to God that even though he was chosen, to not be taken to the place where they were going to kill the children. After he prays, the person who had the list, he said to him, "You can go. Nothing is going to happen to you anymore." Afterward, he appears in an elevator, and he feels that someone else was watching him. In that moment, his mom also appears in the elevator. He peeked out of the elevator and saw that there were 2 people there squatting down. He gets back in the elevator, and when the elevator door closes, he sees 4 purple hands trying to get inside the elevator. In that moment, he and his mom pray for nothing bad to happen, for God to help them. In that moment, he opens his eye a little and sees that the purple hands were slowly disappearing. When they completely disappear, and the elevator door opens again, he was now at church. The sign of the church was there, which said Church of God, Ministry of Jesus Christ International. And at the corners of the church, there were waterfalls with blue water. We were later in the middle of a Bible study, and Sister Maria Luisa got up from her chair and went over to him and laid hands on him. Then he heard the chorus again titled, "If My People's Hearts Are Humbled." Then my son woke up with a perfect state of health. He is now completely back to normal, super lively, super playful, as we have always known him to be. So, brother, I share this with you. We lived this yesterday, and we are very happy to see God's help and answer in this moment, which is so difficult that we were living, and it was a moment of worry, but also a moment of prayer and of reminding God of His promises and seeing His faithfulness as well.
I want with you many of the wonderful things that the Lord has been doing with me and my family lately. Brothers and sisters, just as the Lord would promise to our spiritual leader that we would be having everything we needed, this is how we have seen His promise fulfilled, and the support to all those promises that the Lord has given us through our sister Maria Luisa and all the prayers that she has been doing, not only for the brethren in church, but also those prayers for all of those that are beginning to know the Lord through the teachings. And this is how, brothers and sisters, one of my loved ones in Colombia was in a very complicated economic situation. And because of this loved one couldn't pay or afford to pay rent. This was very troubling for this loved one. And this is how, when she shared with me all the situation, I prayed to the Lord. And at the beginning I was feeling sad, but the Lord removed the sadness through the prayer. I started reminding the Lord of His promises, and also through the prayer reminding Him of all the promises He gave me about that loved one. This loved one is a senior citizen of that country, and she is a beneficiary of a program that the government offers for senior citizens. And this is how the government decided to perform a lottery to be able to award additional aid to only 10 lucky winners out of those thousands of beneficiaries. And for the honor and glory of the Lord, this is how she was one of those 10 selected winners of that draw. And this is amongst thousands and thousands that were aspiring to be winners. Also, brothers and sisters, I want to share with you that just as the Lord has been promising through our spiritual leader that He would be giving those extra monies. And this is how a few days ago I was notified from the company that I used to work for that they had to let me go because they couldn't continue to pay all the salaries for all the employees that they had. And this is how, amongst the many people that they had to let go, I was one of those that was fired from the company. I was praying to the Lord and telling Him that He always provided us with everything, but that we had more expenses that were coming. And with the money that we had to the moment was not enough to cover all those expenses. And this is how the Lord glorified Himself, because a brother that lives in another country wrote to us, and he asked for our bank information so that he would be able to transfer us some money, which was of great help. This is also how the Lord, brothers and sisters, did a beautiful miracle. Because here, my husband and I, we study in a university, and the university offered like a scholarship of help for this times. And they offered a scholarship for groceries. And this is how my husband and I, we both applied for this. I was able to do it, but my husband couldn't apply because they were having some issues in the university system. So he couldn't apply for the scholarship, but he did send some emails inquiring about this and just letting them know that he wasn't able to apply for this benefit. But the Lord did a wonderful miracle as well, my brothers and sisters, because even though he wasn't able to apply for it, He allowed for all these people to see my husband's emails. And this is how he was also given the scholarship. And this is how the Lord has provided us with everything, with food. He has been with us throughout all this situation, and we haven't lacked anything. And I want to testify to honor and glory the name of the Lord.
Brethren, I testify to give the glory and honor to my Heavenly Father. During the first few days in March, I became sick. I was very tired, felt bodily pain, had a dry cough, a headache, nausea, stomach pain, sore throat, lung pain, and my temperature reached up to 100 degrees, and when it went down, it would go to 93 degrees. It was very hard to sleep at night due to my dry cough, and I felt like I couldn't breathe while I laid down. When I was able to stand, I knelt down to pray to the Lord and asked Him to help me. After the second week, my symptoms worsened because the pain in my lungs and my kidneys and my bones was stronger. My renal system was also affected. At this point, I had heard that the virus had begun to spread throughout Popayan, Colombia, and I was also in contact with someone who had tested positive for coronavirus. I asked to be tested, but I didn't receive a result because I was told it had been destroyed. During this time, Sister Maria Luisa had started the sermons and her weekly reflections online. I knelt down and prayed to the Lord to help me because I couldn't read the Bible due to my cough nor sing to God. I knelt down and asked for help, and it was then when I lived an experience with the Lord where I saw something move next to me, and when I looked, it was God's garment. I felt great joy and happiness because of this experience. Also, one of my daughters dreamt that we were being taken to the emergency room on a ventilator to help our breathing. Overall, I believe I was sick for about 2 weeks. Additionally, I was able to see the fulfillment of the promises the Lord had made me through prophecy, where He told me that I was going to be sick and that my health would be frail, but to not worry because He would be by my side helping me, and that I would see Him very close to me. And this happened when I lived the spiritual experience in which I saw God's garment. And to also see how I began to recover through the prayers of our Sister Maria Luisa, and to see the great support God gives her through prayer. And we see that evidence in the amazing healings the Lord has done in many of the brethren from church. I testify this to give the honor and the glory to my Heavenly Father.